microphones. Will you please administer the roll call, Josh?
Director Balboni,
Here.
Director Jaffe,
Here.
Director Christensen,
Here.
Director LaHue,
Here.
President Lather,
Here.
all boards present.
Okay, now we come to the agenda adjustments. This is where we consider agenda items out of order. Is there any agenda items that need to be done out of order? It looks like there's none. Are there any board members that want to pull a consent item for discussion? Seeing none, we will move on to public comment. This is where the public gets a chance to speak about something that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public here to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to consent items.
Doesn't the board have a chance to make comments, or is that later? I forget where it is.
That's later. This is public. Oh, I guess, yes, this is okay. This is it. We've changed stuff around. Does the director want to comment on anything that's not on the agenda?
I'd just like to say I was in the Seattle area, and I was very surprised by the cost of water there. Not actually in Seattle. I was Kitsap Peninsula near Bremerton, and their meter charge is $64 for the 5/8" meter. And considering how much water they have and how much it rains, I was just surprised.
Well, thank you. Is any other,
I can second that one too, because I know someone who
talk into the mic, please.
cashed in his entire Christmas bonus to pay his backlogged water bill because he couldn't afford it. He was working in a bank. Just couldn't afford the water.
That was in Washington? Okay.
They said, what can he do? What can he do? And I went, I don't know why it's so expensive there.
You need to.
But anyway,
to the
there you are.
Okay, so now we are at the consent items. Is there anyone from the public that wants to comment on anything on the consent items or the consent agenda overall? Since there's no one, let's move on to directors. There's no comments. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Director Balboni,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
President Lather.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports. Do we have a general counsel report for today?
Just a really brief one. So we're continuing to kind of look at all the bills that were passed into law, and we'll be providing summaries of those as they're available, likely in January into February. But there was one important one that I wanted to flag, and that's SB 827. In part, this new law will require the board to receive 2 hours of financial training every 2 years. The first training will be due by 2028, so we'll have a little bit of time to put that together. One thing that we've been kind of struggling with or working through, maybe is a better way to say it, is finding appropriate folks to provide this training, just given sort of the subject matter area. It's really CPA, CFO focused. But we have heard that CSDA may be providing the training, so we'll continue to look for opportunities. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're on to item 6, business items. 6.1 is public hearing to consider variance request from Cabrillo College regarding landscape irrigation for student housing project. Taj, I think that you're doing the presentation.
Well, yes. Myself, Eileen Eisner-Streller is with me. She's our assistant engineer, and she's the main point of contact for this project. But I will also introduce John Salisbury. He's Cabrillo's Executive Director of Facilities Planning and Plant Operations. Hi, John. You got to press the,
There we go. Good evening.
so he's here to answer any questions specific after we present the item that you may have. So I will say that this project, Eileen is going to go over the purpose and background, and then I will lead the discussion and analysis, and then bring it back to the board and answer any questions you have as good as I can.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay. All right. The purpose of this item is to present a request from Cabrillo College for a variance to continue using their existing private wells for irrigation, landscape irrigation associated with the new Cabrillo College UCSC student housing, and also waive the requirement to install a dedicated district irrigation meter under Ordinance 2202. And then the background is that the Cabrillo College UCSC student housing project involves the development of 3 buildings and for a total of 246 residential units and up to 686 student beds on a 3.6 acre parcel located in the southwest corner of portion of Cabrillo College near the existing athletic fields. And an unconditional will serve letter for Cabrillo College UCSC student housing was approved on October 7th, 2025.
I'll add to that that the college has 2 existing connections serving them from the district. There's one on the south campus, the south side of Soquel Drive, and then there's also on the north side. Those are larger services. They're 8-inch by 2-inch meters that serve a combination of domestic, fire, and potentially irrigation if and when their existing water system is not able to be online. This development will need fire service, domestic service, and then there is irrigation demands as well around the building. The 3 buildings, there are 3 buildings. One thing that I want to make the board aware of that is not in the memo, and I apologize for this, is that we can't take action on this tonight, but there will be a subsequent request from Cabrillo for a variance from the district's policy of individually metering each building on a site, and that is an oversight by me, but it isn't something that is new to the district and board. In 2008, as part of the VAPA arts education classroom building project, they were granted a variance for the same situation where they have multiple buildings and it's being fed from a master meter. And we can share with the board the actions and that memo in December. We cannot take action on that tonight, but I just want to let you know that there is going to be some subsequent need for action on this. But tonight, we are talking about Cabrillo's request for continuing to irrigate the new landscaping around the 3 buildings with their existing wells, as opposed to the district's water. They have 3 wells that are located relatively inland on the north side of north of Soquel, east of Porter Gulch. They're approximately 1 mile inland, and that's stated in the memo. And all 3 of these wells provide water to a tank that is operated and maintained by the college, and that tank gravity feeds down to throughout the campus. And at this time, all of the irrigation is fed from that system, And even the irrigation system for the VAPA Arts Education Classroom Project is also served from the wells. There are three documents that we need to consider, or the board needs to consider when looking at this situation, and that's why we're here in front of you. Ordinance 2202 requires new developments with more than 500 square feet of irrigated landscape to have a dedicated irrigation meter. Policy 400-016, which is from 2008, governs parcels with existing wells, and that's also listed as attachment 5. That similar policy was referenced at the same time in 2008, where the request was a variance from the well requirements to disconnect a well. The last one is the resolution 74-55, which outlines the procedure for variances that the board has to look at and evaluate the criteria for the variance request. For ordinance 22-1, this is clearly a irrigation area that's greater than 500 square feet. And for policy 400-16, we're not going to ask the college to destroy their wells. That would be overstepping, because the rest of the campus there are 3 actual parcels that the college utilizes for the campus, and the wells are not on this subject parcel, and they provide water for most of the rest of the campus. But in that policy, if the well is to remain, we must demonstrate that the following is in place: that there's a benefit to the groundwater basin by retaining the well, installation and maintenance of private water meters on the well. I think those already exist, and the college has indicated that that's not going to be an issue for them, that the existing private wells have meters installed on them, if not already there. That the college would grant the district access to the wells and obtain data, whether it's production and or water level data. That, again, is not a sticking point with the college. And that if there are declarations of water supply emergencies, that they would comply with those. And again, that one is also not a sticking point. So a lot of the requirements for policy 400-16 are not an issue for the college, except for the one that says existing wells will be destroyed. And they wish to request that not be applied to them at this point. And then when we go through this variance policy, at the end of the packet, attachment 6, I apologize, resolution 74-55 is a little bit truncated here in the memo, but if you look in the actual attachment at the end of the memo, there's a little bit more detail for the 3 findings that need to be made by the board. And I will read them for you in full so that it's not truncated for those that just looked at the memo part of it. But if the board of directors, this is in section 1.03 under findings for a variance, if the board of directors grants or denies a variance, it must make specific findings on the following grounds. A, whether the granting of the variance is required by special circumstances applicable to the property which the strict application of a resolution or ordinance would cause the property to be deprived of privileges enjoyed by other similar properties in the district. B, whether the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the ordinances, resolutions, and policies of the district, and will not be materially detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare. And finally, and this one did get truncated in the memo, C, whether the granting of the variance constitutes a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations placed on other properties in the district. The college has pointed out that there is a potential benefit of having a separate water system in the case of emergency countywide. The college is a resource for the county and the community as a meeting point, an emergency response area. So they highlighted that benefit of having a separate system that could potentially serve that need. Then I think I already mentioned that these wells are very far in, they're a mile in, which is actually from the ocean, which is actually further inland than about 11 of the district's wells. So for that, that issue of the benefit to the groundwater basin, that could be supportive of that. And that's referenced in policy 400-16. If there's any questions, please speak up. The landscape for the new building, around the new buildings, is estimated to be about 1.47 acre feet per year. And the current athletic fields are about 12 acre feet of water per year. So the overall irrigation needs are going to be drastically reduced. However, a lot of that is offset by the domestic increase in demand from the student housing and other support features of this project. So I mentioned earlier that Cabrillo has agreed to install the private, also in addition to metering at the wells, they intend to and support installing a sub-meter or a meter at the irrigation point of connection, whether it's a district meter or a sub-meter of some sort, to monitor irrigation use and any leaks associated with that. I've mentioned they're willing to give access to the data for their existing wells. And it's also mentioned in the memo that Cabrillo has been a partner with the district supporting monitoring well installations on their campus. We have 3 monitoring wells that are used for pure water Soquel. Let's see, there are also some unique circumstances to consider. The fact that this is a very large parcel with a very complex layout of piping and services. It's almost a city in itself. I think some people refer to college campuses like this as a totally self-sustained system, although they do have some need for utilities like us and sanitation and things like that. I think I'm going to stop there and let John, you add anything I missed, and then open it up to the board. There is a small summary of the fiscal impact of this item and how that plays into a decision point here of The one-time water capacity fee for the irrigation service is about $26,675. And then it's anticipated that annually the water rates are about $12,900 if an irrigation meter, a dedicated irrigation meter would be required. So at this point, I would like to maybe open the public hearing before we begin a discussion about this and take any public comment if there is any. And then we can close the public hearing and then proceed with a discussion.
Okay, I mean, I think we should give him a chance to say something first and then open the public hearing to others. So you're on.
Rachel, thank you. I'm sorry, was it Emily? Eileen, sorry, we emailed. Yes, Eileen, thank you. Thank you. That was a really good summary, actually. So I don't think we need to listen to me say it all again. Obviously, the college is very excited about this development. It's not just a huge asset for us, it's a huge asset for UCSC, it's a huge asset for this community. So we are bringing affordable housing to Mid-County in Santa Cruz at an unheralded rate. So the definition of affordability for this development is 30% of 50% of AMI. So today's dollars, that translates for your own bed in this development, potentially with a view of the Pacific Ocean, almost 22,000 square feet of wraparound amenities, rooftop terrace, sky lounges. You're paying about $1,100 a month, including utilities, in Santa Cruz County. It's special. It's special just right there. You haven't seen the renderings or any of the floor plans, happy to share them. It's not just affordable, it's beautiful. It's amenity rich. So it's this rare kind of project where, at least so far, we're landing all the features and criteria we were after. The reason we're here today is, seeking the variance is maybe threefold. Certainly everything Taj articulated. Affordability is one of the features we're after. So we are on week 7 of construction now. So we have a long ways to go. We all know how construction costs go, projects go, especially as you're getting out of the ground. So we're looking at every way to save budget. So if we can get the variance for the irrigation connection, which was our initial assumption, planning assumption going into the project, that's $125K to $135K savings to our contingency stack, at week 7 of the project. So it's meaningful. There's the one-time, there's the ongoing, obviously, the monthly water utility connection associated with that. We'd like to leverage our existing distribution network. We've invested in that. It's in a make-ready condition. We'd like to just pick it back up as intended and feed off of that irrigation connection point. And then finally, I guess the last thing I would point back to, as Taj indicated, we have a precedent from 2008 when we built the VAPA complex, which is kind of the lower western quadrant of the campus, for exactly what we're articulating here. So a variance for the irrigation connection and a variance for the building sub-metering. So we are looking at and pointing back to that precedent here. So and happy to field questions or talk more.
Thank you. So now I will look for comments from the public. And there is no public here, so we don't have any comments. We will go back to a board discussion and close the public comment period.
President Lather, just for the record, it was a public hearing. There's no additional requirement at this point, but just for the record.
It is a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So we don't need to make a motion to close.
At this point, we didn't receive any speakers. We can clarify for the record that it was
yeah.
a public hearing and didn't receive any comment.
Yeah, I was supposed to say that I was opening the public hearing, and there's no public comment, so now I'm closing it. And now you can comment.
I'm just curious, what type of plants is Cabrillo considering putting in? Is it low water use, drought resistant?
Yeah, and I'd be happy to share that. I can push it through Taj and get it to you guys. Off my head, I don't know the planning schedule.
That's the intent at this point.
Native, drought resistant, appropriate for this climate.
Is your mic on or?
Oh, my voice is quiet. I'm sorry. Can you hear
Okay.
me okay? Sorry, I'll get closer. Yeah. Did you catch all that? So native,
I was
drought
able to,
tolerant. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I personally
I have a-
don't have a reason to believe that we should be using treated water for landscape if we don't have to also. I mean, there's a plus and minus, pros and cons to that, but I take
I
it
have a
that's
que-
what you're doing. Or were you using that water for the campus before?
That irrigation
Groundwater.
connection. So that was an existing irrigation connection for those fields.
Okay, so it wasn't for the campus to drinking water or anything like that.
So I need to be, so all of our wells go back to one holding tank, 300,000 gallon holding tank, and then the fire, domestic, and irrigation feed off of that tank. So that segment of the system was part of the irrigation distribution network, but it's all feeding off of the same source tank, if that answers the question.
Yeah, thanks. Tom, I heard you.
Thank you. I wasn't sure whether I should try my hand raising thing, but thank you. So it does help to know that we were in the same situation in 2008, and that, the practicality of I understand where they're coming from, and I think Cabrillo is an amazing resource for the community. So I think just based on precedent and practicality, I'm tending towards allowing the variance. But I had a question on the memo, just to help me out on page 89 of 252. It's kind of the last page of the memo under unique circumstances from this 1974 resolution that possibly should be updated at some point. I'm not sure I understand this, and maybe Taj or Mr. Salisbury or someone can explain. It says that strict application of the district's policies would deprive the college of the benefits enjoyed by similar parcels of a smaller size. So I just curious, what's that? Can someone please explain that for me?
I will, yes, I'll try. I think potentially all the residences that are in our district, we do not require them to have dedicated irrigation services. So that's a benefit that those single-family homes get to enjoy, whereas this parcel does not in the strict application of the policy. And if there's any other addition to that by Melanie or Josh, please weigh in on that. But that's how I interpret it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a quick question. Are there going to be any athletic activities in the remaining land?
Athletic.
Yeah, is that what it is? If that's what it was before, or was it just?
Was multi-purpose fields. Yeah.
Are you going to try to maintain that?
So no, that's, no. I mean, the short answer is we're going to lose that community asset. We are looking, we do have some other sites. Potentially we'll look to develop for youth sports. But, the fields, the multi-purpose fields as they have been utilized will go away as part of this development.
And how long has that well been in operation?
Oh gosh, there's 3 wells. The oldest well is going to go back to the 70s, maybe. I'd have to look that one up. The middle well is early 2000s, and the newest well is 2014.
Do you have any contingency of what you would do those started to age out?
Well, potentially we'd put new wells in, or, I don't know if this is the place for this conversation, but ultimately we would like to tie our domestic service back over to Soquel in the next decade. So maybe it would accelerate planning in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to, I agree with you that this is a complicated institution that you're trying to manage and provide low-cost services to the students there.
Mhm.
That's mostly why a lot of them are attending that school.
Yeah.
Just to save up for a university, finishing up a university. So I really appreciate that and the efforts about it. So I'm inclined to do that. But and I also appreciate the good working relationships, exchange, the open communication that we've experienced that with Cabrillo College too. And so if we're still part of the larger MGA that covers the whole basin, that your wells are located in, ours are also. And I was just wondering whether, there's been some discussion of fees for some of the private well owners and how that would figure into your calculations if that came about.
Right. I think I first saw that 4 years ago was maybe the first
Yeah,
time that
it's-
I ran numbers, how that would impact us. Was a meaningful budget impact would be something we'd certainly have to understand, that's not been a factor of this analysis, so I couldn't answer it directly. It's not something I've thought through.
I know it's just something to keep,
Right.
be aware of.
Yeah, we are tracking. Yeah. I'd have to pull the study back out.
If you would even, initially, right now, it's just discussing the, just being part of all of the customers, all the rest of the customers in the basin working together. So that would put you as part of that group, and it might not even end up in any fees. I don't have any idea, but they do want some communication on the metering and things like that.
Yeah, we're happy to share that, as Taj indicated. I hope you guys know, and to reciprocate your note on the collaborative relationship that we enjoy, regardless of this outcome, that remains intact. We appreciate you guys. I can always call the front office. We need this. We need that. Can we talk about this? Or they'll call me. Hey, you've got a leak somewhere. Go check it out. So. We've been doing it for 66 years, and we'll do it for another 66. So, we enjoy that also.
I think in terms of the MGA, that is something that they're looking at in terms of contributions, and Rio College is considered a public water system, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to forget the term. Small water, non-transient small water district. That's, yeah.
It's complicated. I could just imagine all the different.
Just sorted around. Yeah, correctly. Yeah.
Okay, and can I make a comment now? I was wanting to point out the financial loss to the district if the variance were granted, 26,675 now, and annually 12,900 a year. My question is, does granting this variance align with the district's fiscal and ratepayer equity policies? And I wanted to note that Cabrillo talks about the financial hardship, affordability, and precedent. But honestly, if we look at our, our board directive and our policy, we can only grant a variance if special circumstances apply, if that variance aligns with policy intent, or if the variance doesn't create a special privilege. And I'd say that if the financial costs are the primary driver and the other issues, the precedent, then we would risk granting a special privilege. And is this fair to the ratepayers? So my directive to the board and to staff would really be to possibly look into having a master meter And waiving the 26,675, I mean, we've been paying Cabrillo College $6,000 a year for those monitoring wells for ongoing times, and then possibly, charging an ongoing water fee. So looking into that scenario and then bringing that back to us for December, that would be my preference.
Where do you get the loss of revenue?
It's in our memo about, and Taj brought it up as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be the water capacity fee for a 1-inch meter, which is approximately $26,000. And then the monthly fee is about $3,000 a year, for the service charge, and then about $9,000. These are rough numbers in projected use
For irrigation?
for irrigation only. Now,
That
separately
would
from
be
that,
us providing them water for irrigation,
that's correct.
which we're not going to do.
Well, I think Director Balboni is proposing something, maybe a hybrid of allowing the campus to do what they've done on the other side of the street at the VAPA, where they are irrigating potentially at times with district water. But in this case, rather than installing a separate irrigation meter, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I heard you say this, that they could utilize the other domestic meter, which I believe is a 3-inch meter, a 4-inch meter, which should have adequate capacity to serve both domestic and the irrigation. A 1-inch meter is roughly 50 gallons a minute, which is pretty small considering a 4-inch meter is probably 500 gallons a minute. And so the ongoing usage would still be accounted for, and they would pay that share to the district, but the one-time fee and the monthly fee for the 1-inch irrigation meter would not. So it's sort of a meet in the middle proposal. Okay.
The water that they're pumping, is that in the same groundwater aquifer as what we're pumping farther down?
They do draw from the B, C, and the A unit of the Parisima.
So what we would be doing, though, is pumping farther down from them, treating that water, and then giving it to them to use for irrigation, rather than have them pump it farther inland and not cause as much seawater intrusion and use that.
That's one way of looking at it.
Okay. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Just clarification, the water that Cabrillo College gets from the district, where is that pumped from?
They're in service area 2, so Estates Well, Ledyard, Madeline.
And are those closer to the ocean?
Estates is closer to the ocean than their wells, yes.
The other two are not.
No, the other two might be closer to the ocean as well. Yeah.
Tom, did you have something to say?
We did.
Oh, okay.
So just, I'm glad that, Carla, that you
I'm
brought up.
fine, thanks for checking.
We haven't forgotten about you, Tom.
His little box isn't up there.
Carla, I'm glad you brought up the question about data sharing. And is that occurring now with the wells, the Cabrillo wells, to the district? You're getting data when you request it?
If we request it, yes. They do self-report to the MGA as well.
Oh, good. Well, I found this a very interesting item and not straightforward at all. And part of the things that made it not straightforward for me were the ordinances that apply are 2022 with WDO in the ordinance, 2008. And again, things have changed quite a bit. Before we had a supplemental water supply, in 1974, which actually might not have to be as revised as those. So that it brings up the fact that things are changing with Pure Water Soquel, and that as the staff has already embarked on updating some of the antiquated policies, and I think that I think a high priority is to look at our ordinances and see which ones with the new with the Pure Water Soquel project coming online really need to be revised. But the fact that, well, Tom was on the board and I was on the board in 2008, and we did grant the variance at that time, and so that is a precedence. I would have to see a real detriment to the district to not grant it again. And I don't see that it's a real detriment. There is a financial aspect that Jennifer has pointed out, and perhaps that is in another venue that the discussion with Cabrillo on where, for instance, with charges for us having monitor wells, and the length of the lease on those wells could be discussed. But that's a separate issue than this. That's all I have to say.
Well, I was going to add also that the motion, there are three possibilities: to grant the variance, grant the variance with conditions, and or deny the variance, or continue the item for additional information. So I'm questioning how much time would you be able to meet in December 18th?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So the urgency here is, the short answer to that question is no. So we need to have our fire water in by December 15th to receive our wood framing package for the project. So if we don't have the hydrants charged and in place by December 15th, assuming schedule holds, we have a material schedule slip. It's real dollars, real delays. There are paths between here and there to recover schedule, and those exist. I want to be honest in pointing at them. But the best case scenario from where I'm standing in these shoes is the variance passes as drafted tonight, and we proceed forward. The next time we come back is for the variance for the sub-metering for the buildings, as Taj indicated.
Would you be able to consider like waiving the fees on the monitoring wells that you lease out to the district as a compensation for partial loss compensation?
Yes, but I do think we should have a different conversation.
No, we can't discuss.
Yeah.
We can't discuss this right now.
Yeah.
We can't decide this by any means right now. But
Yes, we should advance those conversations, but maybe we should sidebar on that.
Just one last question. I think when we talked earlier today, Taj, you did say that there's not a danger of cross-contamination, that you could have backflow if there was irrigation coming from well water and the domestic water coming from the district.
No, each connection that we have to our system, it will be backflowed and tested annually.
It would be in a different area than where the irrigation water is, right?
No, it'll be right there.
Okay.
Because there is a new, so I mentioned the two existing connections. There will be the domestic and fire connections that aren't, they're right next to the proposed project. New ones. So
But the irrigation is going to stay the same as it always has been, right? I'm confused about that. Are you talking about irrigation around the new housing or the irrigation that they want to continue to do with their pumping?
So we would,
Sorry, I didn't mean to stump you.
if I'm tracking, we would pick up the existing irrigation point that the college has and connect back to that, which is adjacent to the build site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sure I was.
Then domestic would all be the water district's new connection, correct?
Domestic and fire connected. If
Yeah.
you're familiar with the Loft Coffee over by Twin Lakes Church, it's right across. from the
Exactly.
road.
I do know.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, would you guys mind if I went ahead and made a motion?
No, please.
I was going to make a motion to grant the variance.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. I guess we have a roll call now.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Balboni,
No.
President Lather.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you. You can leave. Go get a cup of coffee.
I really would love to come back and just tell you about the housing development and show you pictures, and we're very excited about it. So
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, that might be a good,
it's really something
Monday.
special for our community, truly something special to be excited about. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
uh-huh. Okay, so next we have item 6.2, review and consider board member 2026 compensation and health and welfare benefits pursuant to ordinance 20-01.
Thank you.
Here
Good
you are.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, President Lather and board directors. This item before you is presented to conduct your annual review of and consider adjustments to board compensation and to review your health and welfare benefits. Attached to this agenda item is the 2001 Board of Directors Compensation Ordinance, as well as the District Board Health and Welfare Benefits listing. The memo outlines the current compensation levels and gives direction for you to consider any adjustments based on your allowable limits that are cited in the chart on page 2. I am open for any additional questions you have at this time. The recommendations are listed on page 2 and 3. If you have any questions, I can take them now. That concludes my presentation.
Are there any comments from the public? This is not a public hearing, right? Okay. Since there is no public here to make comments, I will close the public comment period and open the floor for director discussion and questions. Are there any?
Well, the numbers on these are a little bit backwards. They have the root.
Will you please talk into the?
I'm reading ahead to item 3. I'm concerned about our rates, and then I think at this point I wouldn't be comfortable increasing our board rates. The board, yeah, all of them. I would consider that we need to keep it steady for this year.
Okay. Just really quick, I support a modest increase to $230 a day for regular and out-of-town meetings, keeping the local meetings at 100 and ensure that the benefits stay fair and sustainable. My reasoning for the small and modest increase is really to attract new voices when directors retire. And just like the class and comp study, the directors, stipends should be reflective of what's happening in the world. And California Water Code allows 30% increase. So those are my reasons. Thank you.
I'm
Anyone
going to
else?
just put in a little, yeah, I just was going to say that I don't think anybody that typically chooses to do this job based on compensation.
I'll agree with that, having just gone through a 5.5-hour Zoom yesterday. Yeah, with preparation for a compensation of $100.
When I applied, I didn't even know it was compensated at all. So
Actually, I didn't know that we were going to be paid either. So.
Neither did I.
Much less, so.
I'm fine with leaving it the same.
Likewise.
Okay, so is anyone going to make a motion or are we taking
make
no
the mo-
action?
Well, let's see. Do we need a motion?
If it depends on the board's path forward. If you're looking for an adjustment in the amount, you need a motion. If you're not, no action's necessary.
I would definitely support an increase to $230 a day. So I'll make a motion to increase $230 a day for regular and out-of-town meetings and keeping the local meetings at 100 and ensure benefits stay fair and sustainable.
Is there a second? Seeing none, we will take no action and move on to the next item. The next item is 6.3, review water consumption fiscal year to date. Sorry, I said it in a weird way. Review water consumption fiscal year to date and evaluate January 1, 2026 rate increase. Leslie will be doing the presentation.
Hello.
Good to see you back.
Yes.
We have performed this analysis in the past. We did this last year about this time. We adopted a rate study in 2024 that included scheduled rate increases through January of 2027. The board at that time requested that we look at our water consumption annually to determine whether or not consumption levels had risen enough to perhaps enact a lower rate increase or waive a rate increase that would be scheduled for the first of the year. So we have done that analysis and presented it for you this evening. We are seeing once again that water use is tracking very close to budget. We're within 5% of budget. Water use for October was the lowest that I've seen it in over 20 years. Water use fiscal year to date is also lower than we've seen it in over 20 years. So we have not seen a rebound in water consumption that I think would justify adopting a lower rate increase. If you compare our consumption and our expectations to the finance plan that was put together at the time we did the rate study, in 2026, and you can see that on page, no, I think you go further down.
145.
145? Yeah, you can see that graph that was, one more. You can see the graph from the finance plan there. This was done as part of the rate study. And if we were to enact all of the scheduled rate increases that were proposed under the study and our water consumption was to remain static, we would still be under our reserve expectations in 2026. We need reserves of around 16 million, and we're only bringing in 10.1 million under that rate increase. So we still have reserves that need to be made up over the next couple of years. The other issue that we want to consider is if we do not enact a rate increase, the fiscal impact of that is going to be about $5.8 million in lost revenue. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but it's an informational item at this time. Recommendation would be to enact the scheduled rate increase on January 1st, 2026, unless the board chooses to act differently.
Can I just thank staff for putting this together? Because I think I'm the one that asked for it. And I really appreciate looking at it each year. And I'm hoping that we can do it one more time at the end of next year to see if anything else has changed.
And it looks like we definitely should look at it in FY 2028 where the green bar, the ending balance is high. And I take it there would not be an alert balance star.
So correct. The rate study or finance plan for the rate study is showing that our reserves would be adequate in 2028 if we continue to collect revenue as expected under the rate study. The other component of this that we do need to consider, however, is the debt coverage ratio, and that's not shown on this graph.
Oh,
We need to ensure that we're collecting adequate operating revenues to offset our debt coverage ratios that are identified in our debt covenants.
and can you verbally say where we stand with that?
So we have a minimum debt coverage target of 1.7. There, we are fine this year, and I believe we are looking fine next year under the rate study. But as we go out and further years, when we forecast out, that debt coverage ratio is starting to be a concern.
And that's because after the plant is built, the debts become due.
Correct.
I think primarily the WIFIA loans come in, have to be paid.
Right, we have a 5-year capitalization period on the WIFIA loan, so it'll be 5 years after project completion before the WIFIA comes due, but the SWIC loan will be due upon completion.
Okay, so before we do too many questions, I was supposed to open public comment and look for public members, and they're not here, and close public comment before the board members jumped in. But that's okay. Now I've done it. Now you can say whatever you want.
So one more question. What percentage, qualitatively, how much does the water use make a difference in terms of the income that comes in?
I don't have a ratio off the top of my head, but running financial forecasts, we have played a little bit with the revenue forecasts. An additional 500 acre feet a year is not that significant, but when you get up into additional 1,500 acre feet a year, then it becomes a significant bump to our revenue.
That's a lot of water, considering we only use around 3,000
Right.
acre feet. And our motto is 60% from metering and 40% for capacity.
Right.
So, yeah, if the water use doubles, that would make a difference. But it would not, if it's just 5%, I could see how that's not a significant difference in the amount of revenue.
Yeah.
Did this projection include other items that we may have to do, other state mandates that are coming on?
It did not include the full forecasted costs of Chrome 6 as we're seeing them now. No.
Okay. Just wanted to put that on the record.
No, I believe we had Chromium 6 budgeted at about 10 million in the finance plan.
So I'm also, don't think it's the right time to veer from what our plan was with the rate increase. I wish it was. But I do want to, like Tom, want to keep looking at this. And make sure that any rate increase that we do is absolutely necessary.
Well, I think, when are we due for another rate study?
So we have rates through January of 2027. That will be the last rates enacted under this study. So we'll want to make sure that we have something in place for January 2028 if a study shows that that's warranted. So we would begin a study probably about fall of next year.
Because I know there's a whole lot of unknowns on this. I don't think, but the main thing is, ironically, when the rates go up, water use or water consumption goes down a little bit. I think some of that dynamic is happening, but nevertheless, that was one of the reasons we had to raise the service for some stability and just keep things steady. But still, that dynamic is still in play, I believe, and I think, but we still have to be fiscally sound.
Based on the request by Dr. Leahy, we'd be coming back again around this time in 2026. And then, like Leslie said, spring, summertime, we would be initiating a rate study that would then come to the board that next winter for consideration of approval.
And just to be 100% sure, so with these studies, it puts the maximum rate that we can charge. And if situations change, we can charge less.
Correct. Prop 218 sets the cap at what we can bill. You can adopt a lower percentage rate increase, but you wouldn't want to say change tier 1 but not tier 2. You need to keep that cost of service model in place,
Right.
but you could overall adopt a lower percentage. Correct. Up
Right
to
across the board.
so many percent.
equally. Yeah, okay.
I turned mine off. There's no recommended action, and this was informational only. So next is the closed session because there's no items that were moved.
Well,
Oh, did I go right past it? Yep. I saw rate increase. Where is the urban water management plan?
Item
Oh,
6.
6.4, sorry. Maybe these things should be highlighted more. Or I need better glasses. So 6.4 is 2025 Urban Water Management Plan Primer.
this is going to be presented by Alyssa Abbey.
Thank you. Hi. Melanie, do you have the slides that
It should be on top.
we just have this is just a brief item. It's just informational, just to give you some a heads up as to what's coming with our 2025 Urban Water Management Plan. There are a couple items that we like to take to the board for consideration in relation to this report. And so we just want to get you thinking about it. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you need me to come over there?
Oh.
It's the
Quick, call Emma.
Pause for technical difficulties. Is it on here?
I'd say that's pretty
Relax.
Well, as they figure that out, I can get started about just what the purpose of the urban water management plan is. It's a report that we are required to do by the Department of Water Resources every 5 years. And it's kind of a comprehensive look at the district. It has a bunch of different sections. We can see on the next slide. So these are all the required sections that are in the plan, and they are really broad, cover everything from what's our population to what's our water demand, what's our water supply. A big core component of it is just forecasting what the demand is and making sure that we are going to have the supply to meet that over a 20-year planning horizon. And so because this ties into some, long range planning that we have at the district, the two items that we are going to be bringing back specifically, one is the demand projections, that's under section 4, water use characteristic. And then the other one is the water shortage contingency plan. So the demand projection will come in January. And then we're looking at spring for the water shortage contingency plan. And then the whole plan, the whole urban water management plan is due in June. So we'll bring all of the sections back for adoption at that time. So the first one is the demand projection. And so this is, over the next 20 years, what do we think that our production, our demand is going to be? And there's a couple of things that we need to consider when we're looking at that. One is the growth forecast. So that's something that we've been working with the land use agencies on, is trying to get a realistic picture of what they think as far as housing units and population, how that's going to change over 20 years. There's been a lot of changes the last couple of years with the RENA numbers, which is the regional housing needs allocation, those numbers getting drastically increased. And so there's been a lot of adjustments at the land use agencies to try to adapt to that. Our goal with the growth forecast is to kind of thread the needle. On the low end, you'd be looking at like our historical growth. And then on the high end, you'd be looking at something like those RENA projections. So our goal is to get the realistic middle there, to get an idea of what growth might look like in our service area. And so we are in conversation with the County of Santa Cruz and the City of Capitola about that. The other consideration we have is baseline usage. So we basically have to pick a period of time that we think is representative of what our customers will do in the future, and then we apply different parameters onto that baseline as we project out. And so in the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, we used a baseline of 2012 to 2014. If you look at that production graph there, you can see those are fairly high numbers compared to what we have actually seen in the last 10 years. And so we do think that there's going to be a significant change in how we do the baseline usage for this next cycle to kind of right size it a little bit, recognizing that we don't think that water demand, baseline demand, is expected to come back to where it was before, before the big drought that we had in 2014. And
Is there a requirement for the number of years in your baseline period?
no, that's up to us.
Because it would seem to me that a longer period is more likely to encompass the weather variation, and that would be probably a good way to go.
Yeah, at this time, we are considering a 10-year baseline to kind of get a representative idea of the last 10 years of our customers' usage. But that is still something we're talking about.
And another follow-up, if, let's say our usage goes up relative to the baseline, does that have any effects downstream? Or is it just, we have a plan, there's not a penalty if that happens? Because that'd be a reason to pick a baseline with more use if there was a penalty.
Right. So as far as what we pick for the baseline for this, it doesn't have really consequences if we go over that. Like, I mean, we have baseline kind of usages for other reports that the state has, like our urban water use objective. There is kind of a baseline usage that they're setting there. But that's much higher than what we would be projecting as a baseline here. And you know, with this projection, if we miss the mark, we will reassess it in 5 years. This is the projection that we use for kind of supply planning. We can use different projections for fiscal planning. This is what we want to do to make sure that, you know, we're going to have enough water for houses getting built. I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. A comment on the houses getting built aspect. Those numbers it's a requirement for the county to plan for that, but it's up to the developers to build. And so it's going to be an overestimate.
Yeah, and that's what
Traditionally, the numbers that we've gotten from the regional estimates have been grossly overestimated. I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah, that's what we heard from the land use agencies, and so we're taking that into account when we consider which growth forecast we're ultimately going to use.
Okay.
And the last one that we're also going to be applying is demand parameters, and so that's kind of the influences on that baseline that we're going to consider, one of which is rates, climate, and like technology improvements. So those all are expected to have effects on customer behavior and demand moving forward. So those go into that as well. And one thing that's a little bit of a question mark is, you know, what is our demand going to do after pure water starts? And so, you know, that's something we're considering as we look at this.
Alyssa, I think one other thing maybe to point out related to Dr. Jaffe's point related to trying to get the right baseline or the right mark and what happens if we don't make it. There's also included in the Urban Water Management Plan state regulations for meeting, you know, water use targets or water efficiency targets. So we do have to also build that into our assumptions. Conservation as a way of life and I can't remember the regulation codes by heart, but.
Yeah, one thing that we can show when we bring it is if we were just meeting the state kind of budget, water budget that they've set for us, what would that look like as far as our demand? And from the last time that we looked at what our objective target was, it would be way, way higher than what we think we are actually going to be using. So we expect to come way under budget for what the state is asking us.
Become more realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can move on to the next slide. So the next big component of this I just want to briefly go over is the water shortage contingency plan. And this should be, you know, somewhat familiar. We do assess every spring the water shortage stage that we want to declare in for the rest of the year. And we do that using this water shortage contingency plan. And so every year we assess the triggers for a water shortage stage. The three that we currently have in our plan are rainfall, if there's a short-term production shortfall, and then groundwater overdraft and seawater intrusion. The markers for the groundwater overdraft and seawater intrusion that we look at are minimum threshold exceedances, and that's those exceedances are as they are in the GSP. And so we have been in a stage 3 water shortage since 2014. But that's a 25% curtailment. One thing that's worth noting about that is that that's over a baseline usage of 3,900 acre feet, which is not what we are seeing right now. And so as we do this whole process with kind of adjusting our baseline and the demand projections, that will have influences on our water shortage contingency plan. Because if we, are actually at 3,000 acre feet, a 25% curtailment on that is much steeper. So that's just something to consider. I think that kind of wraps up what I wanted to say there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this whole process.
Sorry, I have to open it to the public. There's no one here, so I will close the public comment period and open the floor to the directors.
And I just make a comment before I might lose my ability to stay tuned, but I hope that as we go forward, we'll focus mostly on the groundwater level indicators to make the decisions on water contingency planning. That's all.
So you don't have to put it back up since you're done with the presentation, but so your plan, you aren't done. So you're going to be presenting on 2 of the sections to the board to get information. And I request that you have a short presentation on section 7, the water service reliability and drought. Because I think with Pure Water Soquel, things are changed. It's going to change. Certainly the drought aspect of that.
Yeah, I certainly can bring that back. That section is, it's primarily written for surface water agencies. And so it's tied to what we do yearly with the annual water supply demand and assessment. And it's basically asking, like, if there was a drought, could you physically meet the demands of your customers for like 1, 2, 3 years? So I'd be happy to bring it back, but it doesn't incorporate the Pure Water stuff in it directly.
Okay, so I'll let you decide whether or not we should know what's in it,
Okay.
whether to bring it back. It sounds like it's really checking a box.
Yeah.
This question comes up every time this
Speak into the mic.
every time the gets considered. But so there are a lot of groundwater agencies throughout California. I don't understand why this is still that way.
Yeah, I think the kind of interaction between Sigma and this Urban Water Management Act was not seamless integration.
Yeah, because we've struggled with that. It's always come up with the water emergency, every year, whether it be a stage 3, and our motivation, I think, cumulatively, is mostly about whether Pure Water Soquel is going to finally get over the starting line, and get it finished, and get going. And so I really do struggle with the seasonality of the rainfall, the continued questions about how much storage, how many years of storage there is in our aquifer in the case of a drought and no replenishment? I think, I'm not sure we've answered these questions yet, have we? Definitively?
Not extremely definitively. In the MGA too, it talks about how even how we're evaluated either annually or through the periodic evaluation. You could potentially draw more water, and then you'd be measuring and managing your basin management objectives over time. It's not like a 1 year decline means a certain trigger. There's kind of a period of either rebound or evaluating what something might have 2 years down the road. I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky. And the urban water management plan is so prescriptive in terms of it's not necessarily, I think it gives the ability to write a lot of narrative. You have to check the box, fill a table in exactly like this.
I understand the dilemma, don't worry.
You know, one thing.
Is you have to respond to the state's request.
Yeah, there is as Melanie said, there's a lot of narrative that we can kind of craft around the required tables to make it suit our purpose. And with that water shortage contingency plan, I did want to bring up that we are planning on engaging with Montgomery and Associates for the groundwater triggers. So that is part of our plan.
Good plan.
Yes, that's good.
And I agree with Director Legu's comment about having water levels near the coast is part of that section on water shortage contingency
Okay, that was an informational item. Sorry, I was looking at something that was wrong on here. I was crossing it out. So now we have closed session. So I believe I state that we're convening to closed session. I request public comment on anything on the closed session items. There's no public here to comment. I ask public members to exit the meeting room. And then,
We'll probably break just for a couple minutes so I can tell CTV to turn their things off.
yes. Yeah, there's this odd thing here, so.